London is a scenic, low-lying water wonderland, and the Thames is the cleanest it's been for centuries, and clean water flows effortlessly into every building. But it hasn't always been like that. In this episode, I'm on a mission to discover the great minds and the great designs that make life in London possible. This is the Thames Uncovered. We've reached the final episode of this series, and it's here we explore the most important stretch of the Thames and the part we depend on most.
To say that this is the most important stretch of river after hundreds of kilometres covered is a big statement. So I need to justify it, and I need to hurry up about it because it's extremely cold and uncomfortable. What you see behind me is the Thames Barrier. And while it's not going to win any awards for its beauty, it does provide us with a blanket of security and keeps us all dry. And surprisingly, if it was to fail even once during a storm surge, we would all be in the world of trouble.
The Thames, like all rivers, is extremely prone to flooding, and it was something that has happened sporadically throughout history. It's something that we cannot afford to fail us. We have built a lot of businesses and properties with price tags so high they could make your eyes bleed in flood-prone areas. It also includes 4 World Heritage Sites. One of them is Westminster, the very beating heart of our country.
Fortunately for us, the Thames Barrier has made these epic floodings a thing of the past. Even in 2013, during Storm Xavier, we all kept comparatively dry. Well, except for the rain, which the Thames Barrier can't do anything about anyway. Unappreciated, it protects us day in, day out. And while I can't see anybody coming here deliberately to come and see it, it is definitely worth mentioning in the story of the Thames.
The next place I'm covering is almost mythical to me. It's Crossness pumping station. I know it doesn't look like much from the outside,
but on the inside, it looks like this. And while it looks like some kind of pimped up cathedral or palace, it is in fact a sewage plant. Understandably, visiting a sewage plant isn't exactly a high priority for most tourists here in London. However, I believe it should be, but for me to convince you, it's going to take a history lesson.
I have a very strong why for doing this. Not only is this place absolutely beautiful, it's also one of London's least known attractions, even though it is of incredible importance, and I want to change that. This place should be brimming with visitors, but barely anyone knows what or where it is. Just to be clear, it's in Abbey Wood, which might actually be part of the issue, to be fair. But to tell this story properly, I've come here to London's West End, Soho, the home of London's best West End plays and an absolute hub of customer services and fine cuisine from around the world.
But Soho hasn't always been the classy upmarket place it is today. Once, things were very different.
During the 1800s, London became the world's first megacity. The population at the turn of the century was a mere 1.6 million people, and that had soared to a whopping 6.6 million people by 1900. And this had led to massive overcrowding, and many people were forced to live in slums.
In 1851, there was around 430 people per square acre living around here, all scrunched in together. And this would have led to enormous health and safety issues, especially since it was custom to shit out your own window. And this would have leaked through the floor and into the water systems and given a bacteria a place where it can call home.
Waterborne diseases such as cholera regularly popped its ugly head up with devastating results.
At the time, cholera was widely treated with something called laudanum. but then so was everything else.
Laudanum is a potent mixture of alcohol and opium. It does nothing to treat cholera, but at least you could relax while you were soiling yourself to death. Medicine was very much in the hit and miss stages, and it was mostly misses. No one really knew how cholera was spread, and the current consensus at the time was it was spread by the funky smell. But there is one man who didn't buy it, and that man was John Snow.
Now, John Snow was the son of a Yorkshire coal worker, and the smartass had harboured the idea for a very long time that cholera was in fact spread by water. Now, this notion had been met with fierce resistance and dismissed as nonsense, but then in 1854, Soho suffered an enormous outbreak, and this was his chance. And while everybody was running away from the infection, John Snow was running to it.
He'd noticed that cholera cases were concentrated round the pump at Broad Street, now Broadwick Street for some reason.
And this is a genuine replica of that pump, and it was crucial into John Snow's big insight about the spread of cholera. You see, he noticed that a woman called Susanna Ely that lived in Hampstead many miles north of here contracted cholera, and that's because she sent her servants to this pump because she said the water tasted sweeter than it did in her area, presumably because of all the extra fecal matter.
It was enough to convince the authorities. The handle was removed and the spread of cholera reversed.
John Snow was awarded the greatest honour that you can have here in England. He had a pub named after him.
Hey there, we hope you're enjoying this episode. Quick one for you. We wanted to share with you one of the reasons why we have decided to make this series at all. And that's because here at Earth Explorer Pro, we appreciate that it feels like society's becoming ever more isolating, and there's plenty of reasons for that. We're working longer hours, polarizing social media, remote working. All of these things have contributed to this terrible feeling. And what that means is our holidays, our time away from it all, has moved from a luxury to an absolute necessity. And it's also no secret that there is less money in the economy. Most of us just have less of it. And that means staycations and domestic travel has skyrocketed in recent years. And if this is you and you're feeling like you're missing out, we are here to tell you that everything is far from lost. I'm sure if you've been watching this series, you will agree that we live on a beautiful island, and we appreciate that your time is very precious. So in the link in the description below, you will find a how-to guide on everything. It covers how much is it to get there, how do you get there, everything you could want, and that's completely free. Lastly, if you have found any of our stuff to be of value, maybe you found it entertaining or informative and you would like to show us some support, the best free way that you can do that is to just hit the like and subscribe button. It does the world of difference. It's absolutely free and easy for you, and it would mean the world to us. And if you do, we promise to try and make our content ever better for you. And that is our pledge to you. And we would thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Now back to the episode.
While he saved countless lives from pooping themselves to death, it was still not enough for the government to do very much about it. It took another 4 years, a heat wave, and some extremely bad press to get their attention. The bad press came from one of the scientific rock stars of the day, Michael Faraday, when he wrote to the Times about his little experiment he did.
Faraday's experiment was very simple. He'd come to the river with a white piece of paper and dropped it in. And the goal was to see how long did it take for it to disappear under the surface. It turned out not very long at all. And while the experiment wasn't exactly high tech, it was enough to capture the attention of the people and crucially make the government take action.
Well, almost. The final blow actually come from the stench. In the summer of 1858, there was an enormous heat wave, and it caused decades of built-up rotten food, garbage, industrial runoff, and human waste to begin to bake in the sun. It became not so affectionately known as the Great Stink, and that potent smell began to penetrate the walls of the newly purchased Houses of Parliament. Politicians now wanted to act for some reason. It was time to clean up the river, and they employed a man by the name of Joseph Bazalgette for the job. Turns out that was a really good shout, since he happened to have a plan for over 1,000 miles of street drains and 82 miles of main sewers for just such an occasion. He must have scribbled it down in the back of a napkin or something. He must be one of the greatest engineers of all time, and certainly would have saved more lives than just about anyone else in Victorian England, as cholera epidemics simply stopped happening. He set the standard for sanitation systems for the whole world, but he didn't get a pub named after him. All he got was this statue under a bridge. That was it. And all of this culminated back at Crossness. It became known as the Cathedral in the Marsh, and you can see why. So much detail and clearly no thought for spending whatsoever. I hope now you can see why this is one of the most important and most beautiful buildings in the whole of the city. Powered by these enormous steam engines that still run on designated steaming days. This building and these engines were once responsible for driving up all that dirty water that had been funneled from the city and pushing it further downriver, keeping everyone safe. This is a project that required tremendous vision. Now I'm going to meet a man who's dedicated a lot of his time to preserving this historical wonder.
Hello, my name is Gary.
Hi, I'm Rob.
So, I have a question right out the gate. What is it about Crossness, a sewage pumping station, that makes it so special? And what drew you here in the beginning?
So, I would say that this grand palace to poo is really special because actually you cannot understand the modern city fully, in my opinion, without coming here and understanding the value this had to Victorians at the time. There was no way of pumping sewage before Crossness existed. This is all part of Joseph Bazalgette's incredible sewer system for London, which revolutionises sanitation and basically harbingers the beginning of the modern world as we know it.
So it's undeniable that this place is an absolute masterpiece. Do you have a particular detail that is your favourite?
Okay, there's so many to choose from, but I'd say the thing that I find it's a wonderful detail and it's kind of funny as well, is if you look up to the capitals, to the columns, you see, I mean, there's all sorts of plants and what have you depicted in the ironwork here.
Yeah.
But hanging from the capitals to the columns, you can see these figs hanging down. And behind them, there's these sort of looks like sort of red peas in a pod.
Yeah.
And we think they are senna pods. So we've got figs and senna. Now, if you know your medicine, your Victorian medicine, you will know that those are the key ingredients to syrup of figs. And do you know what that did?
It's a laxative.
It is, yes. So like this building, it sort of helps things flow, doesn't it? That's how I like to think of it.
So you could say this is a cathedral to the toilet almost.
Absolutely.
So how long have you worked here? And more importantly, what has kept you passionate about the work?
So I started volunteering here about 3 years ago, and I was lucky enough to get a paid position just over 2 years ago. So I'm now the visitor experience manager here, and I'm organising a lot of the events, overseeing a lot of the tours and what have you. And for me, the thing that keeps me passionate about this place, I mean, you just have to look at it. It's something that blows visitors' minds when they come here. It's really something else that you don't see very much around the place. And to think that how weird it is to find this sort of elaborate, ornate beauty in a sewage pumping station, and having the joy of being able to explain that to people. Why does this place exist, like, right here?
So my last question for you is, if we had some kind of magic time machine and I could be catapulted back to when this place was in its full glory, what do you think one thing is that would really surprise anybody looking at it?
All right, well, it's quite a lot, I think, that people would be surprised by the Victorian era. But one thing now, this isn't to do this place down, but I know that people get a bit shocked to find out that sewage treatment comes later. So what are they doing here? They're lifting the sewage, but where's it going? Back into the river. So what this whole system is meant to do is, rather than all of the sewage going into the river in central London, where it's causing all these stinks and cholera and all sorts of horrible diseases, they're moving it further eastwards out here and putting it back. They're storing it in a giant container, 25 million gallon container, effectively, big reservoir, covered reservoir, and then on the outgoing tide, putting it back in the river in the hope that it'll all go out to sea.
Well, if you live downriver, you probably wouldn't be thrilled about that.
No, I think the residents of Gravesend and Erith were none too pleased.
Well, Rob, I have to say, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Please keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
I really feel like I've saved the best for last, and this is the end of the series. I hope you've enjoyed watching it half as much as we've enjoyed making it. Next time, join us in India.